Okay, this is the second half of the subsistence lecture. I'm going to break this up into several smaller lectures. Excuse me. In order to cut down on the upload times. It's going very slowly, as you can imagine. Okay, in this section we're going to talk about horticulture. Primarily in the second half of this one we're going to talk about intensive agriculture. Horticulture is the cultivation of crops with simple hand tools. Cultivation with simple hand tools. That means that you don't use any animal power, other mechanical advantages, fertilizer, irrigation, any of that kind of stuff. All that's associated with intensive agriculture. So it's cultivation with simple hand tools, human power only. The most complicated thing that's associated with horticulture is something called swidden cultivation, which you may have heard of as slash and burn cultivation. Slash and burn. That's a situation that happens in people who live in forested areas, and they would actually cut down a section of forest to clear the land, and at the same time it mixes ash into the fertilizer, ash into the soil, which conditions the soil and makes it easier to grow in. And then they can use that for one season. Right? So they use that for a relatively short period of time. Then they have to cut down another chunk of forest and start the process all over again. That's called slash and burn. That's the most complex sort of technology that we see in association with horticulture. Right. Now we may see horticulture, it doesn't just drop out of the sky onto the people. We often see transitional phases where people are moving from hunting and gathering to horticulture. And I've got an external video excuse me, which shows a group that's in that transitional stage. They're called the Waorani. You can open that up after you finish this and have a look at the Waorani. This is the group. It's a picture of some of them down to the right hand side. You can see on the map they're in South America in the excuse me, in the rainforest, not too far from where the Yanomamo are. As you go through the video, you'll notice that mostly it looks like a hunting and gathering group. You can probably see a bunch of different elements of hunting and gathering just in the way that they're living. They are still moving through the jungle, making most of their living from hunting and gathering. On the other hand, they're planting a garden in this specific clip. Now that's integrated into the hunting and gathering system. If you recall the daisy pattern, the daisy pattern was a pattern through which people will exploit most of their environment and hunting and gathering system. So they're moving. You need to review that. Go back to the previous, the first half of this lecture where we talked about the daisy pattern. Daisy pattern. In a daisy pattern, the people moved from one base camp to another throughout their territory in a systematic way. Exploited the reused base camps over and over again throughout the year, but exploited the immediate area around the base camp and then moved twice as far away and started another one, exploited that area, and on and on and on. Now in the course of doing that, you can imagine that they have some idea of their schedule as they move through their territory. They can tell, they can more or less predict when they're going to be back at a particular camp. They can plan it. And so they can start a sort of low maintenance garden right there in the camp or near the camp, and then when they get back to the same camp in their cycle of movement, they'll have crops that are potentially ready for them. You'll notice that a few things were going on in the video. They were planting manioc, which is a type of tuber. It's related to yams, sweet potatoes. There are various kinds of tubers and root vegetable, like potatoes included in tubers. Yams and sweet potatoes are as well. Manioc is like a sweet potato. It's more of a yam, but it's starchier. It's not as sweet. And there are various kinds of yams that are staple crops around the world. So that's what they were planting. They were planting it through cuttings. They were putting the thing into the ground, like actually cutting a section of the plant and planting that rather than using seeds. They're also doing something called intercropping. That's when you plant different plants near each other because each one benefits from the other's presence. We have something in our horticultural systems in the United States, so our backyard farms, called companion planting. You may have heard of that if you ever did any backyard gardening. We know that some plants grow better with other plants. The Three Sisters system, which is something you might have heard of in American history, maybe in high school or junior high. Where they would plant corn, beans, and squash together, all in the same mound, right? And the reason they would do that is the squash would spread out on the ground and act as sort of a mulch and prevent weeds from growing. The corn would act as a trellis for the beans. The beans could snake up the corn. You didn't need to build a separate trellis. And they all worked together in terms of being able to grow more efficiently. That's intercropping. It's also companion planting. If you have one plant that benefits from another and you plant them near each other, then you'll get a better yield. Now they were doing this based on their knowledge of the forest. They had been collecting these plants as they foraged through the forest, and they recognized which ones grew better near others, and so they imported that understanding into their small gardens. You'll also notice that it looks very different from a garden that you might see in the United States or in Western Europe. They left all the leaf litter in place. Right? Leaf litter is, if you ever walk through the forests in the fall, you'll notice that a bunch of leaves have fallen down. It's a very crunchy walk. And all those leaves on the forest floor, that's called leaf litter. They just left it in place, cleared off a spot, and planted whatever they were going to plant. So it didn't look like a Western garden with rows and all the other things we do to organize our gardens. They looked like just part of the forest. Excuse me, and that wasn't really, well, they didn't have the concept of farming in the sense that we do. On the other hand, it's not that different from some types of farming that are done today. I know people personally who take that exact strategy in their backyard gardens. They'll just have a bunch of leaves raked up into covering part of their what used to be a lawn. They're there long enough, the grass goes away. And they'll just clear off a little spot and plant something and then push the leaves back over. Now what's happening is the leaves are actually functioning as mulch. Sorry, couldn't think of the word for a second. Mulch. We mulch gardens all the time. We use different types of things, including leaves, to cover the area. If you're using leaves or other kinds of mulch, often it adds to the soil, adds organic material to the soil, and it protects the soil from the sun. It'll dry out if it's exposed to too much sun, particularly in the Amazon where they have a thin layer of soil. And it also prevents weeds from growing. So there are a lot of benefits to mulching. So I know other people who bring in truckloads of leaves to just pour on their garden for that purpose exactly after they've planted the whole thing. Right, so they're just making use of a natural resource, leaf litter, which serves as a natural mulch. Right. So if you want to review that video, go right ahead. In the next short video, we will talk about intensive agriculture. So we'll end there for now.